What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Okay. Now, Bobby Jindal, there's an article that I'm gonna put in the description box below. Says that racism will probably stop if people would act more white, which is perfect for what I want to talk about. There are non-white people in the world who will sell their souls to assimilate and believe this kind of dumb nonsense because at some point they actually think that's all they need to do. But logically, the way I think, if you want people to act more white, we would have to emulate the entirety of white culture. And if non-white people start emulating the entirety of white culture, I think it would be considered treason in America. I think it would be considered biological warfare. I think it would be considered economical warfare. I think it would be all out war. Because when people say act white, they want to say act white from this point on, not since, let's just say, the landing of Christopher Columbus in the Caribbean. You get what I'm saying? If we go, we gotta bring the whole thing in the context. So when non-white people say that, for one, this the disrespect of yourself is very telling when you think intelligence is not a racial thing. Self-respect is not a racial thing. Confidence is not a racial thing. The ability to create is not a racial thing. Life in all of its glory is not a racial thing. But when you want somebody to assimilate to one life style, you make yourself subservient. And a lot of people I know who are non-black to some degree have a issue with us as black people's unwillingness to assimilate to American culture because we created our culture in America. We didn't come to America and punk out and give it away. And a lot of people want to think we did from slavery and all that other stuff. Nah, it's not the case. I'll tell you why it's not the case. See, we had to work with what we knew from when we got here. You came of your own free will and gave it all up. So when you say you need to act more white, you knew your language. You knew your last name. You knew your tradition. You knew your history. You knew that what you were doing was a slap in the face to everything your ethnic group, uh, origins, religion, language, whatever stood for. We created our own thing within this culture we were quote unquote given. And we still made it separate from what people consider the mainstream culture. So if we were to assimilate, it would be probably one of that's why a lot of black people look at it differently because it's an ultimate slap in the face to humanity. You telling me I'm going to completely and totally accept a accept a frame of mind and a culture that actually stems from crimes against humanity, to say the least. You know, that's what I'm gonna do. No, I'm not. I'm not. There's a part of a man's soul where a man says, not gonna happen. You know, everybody uses the great quote when you watch 300 when Gerald Butler goes, "This is Sparta," and he kicks the dude down whatever, the hole or well, whatever. Well, when people come to this country and assimilate, they don't even say this is anything now. You know what I'm saying? It's like they are King Leonidas looking at themselves from wherever they're at, and then say, "This is America. I don't like you no more." Self, they kick themselves down the hole. When you do that, that ain't nobody else's fault, nobody else's problem, nobody else's issue. But same thing, we talk about our own people doing that when they running behind white people. See, let me give you a quick slavery note that's true to today. There were free men during slavery. Some of those free men were free because they were just free. They were here before slavery. Some of those men were free because they came from other parts of the world during slavery. Some of those men were free from things that happened where they have to either fight their way out or work their way out of slavery, or just got lucky and hit the lotto. Yeah. But some of those men, when I say men, I mean men and women too, were free because they snitched on slaves trying to revolt and free themselves. So everybody, and those kind of free people, did not actually get their freedom. They just traded in slavery for being outnumbered everywhere they go and to get reinstituted back into slavery. If you don't get what I'm saying, it's kind of like if two countries had a war and both of them had 1,000,000 people on the front lines, and then 100,000 men went to the uh, committed treason and were spies for the other side, and they walked over. Now it's 1,100,000 people against 900,000 folks. Now, when that other army is completely decimated, maybe down to 100,000 men or whatever, and it's over, and they surrendered and they quit and they just went back home. Those 100,000 that's on the other side, they just became outnumbered by 10 to 1, and they're not free at all. See, those 100,000 that went back to their wives just gonna have to replenish their land and just keep it moving because they lost. But the ones that decided to be traitors, they've enslaved themselves and their children and their children's children, so on and so forth. So people like this, and doing what Bobby Jindal says, for one, this country will be at war if we followed that same premise, because they don't want non-white people doing that kind of shit without repercussions. And two, you just enslaving yourself, which makes you worse than what you call us black people. You feel me?